Round 3, here we come. We're finally here. This, I'm telling you, I lost sleep over this. My notes, I'm so excited to get to this and finally get to talk about it. Daniel Cormier versus Stipe Miocic 2.
I think that this is going to be such a fun fight. Like you said, just a little bit over a year ago, they fought. Daniel Cormier catches Stipe with an elbow, knocks him out cold. So I have a couple of stats. I did a little bit of research thanks to MMA On Point, which is a YouTube channel. And I found out, Brick, 82% of champions coming into a title rematch will leave as the champion. So to kind of break that down, Daniel Cormier has an 82% chance coming into this because he's walking in as the champion. So Cormier is favored in terms of that chance. However, I'm going to suggest really quickly, and I know you haven't asked me yet, but I'm going to be Mr. Hot Take. I'm going to be the 18%. I think Stipe catches Cormier early and knocks him out cold, and this will set Daniel Cormier into the sunset, and he will end his career after this fight on Saturday night.
Wow.
That's my thought.
You're putting him in his coffin.
I'm not putting him in his coffin. Stipe is putting him into his coffin.
But you are calling that Saturday, DC's MMA career will unofficially end.
I think it officially ends. I think he leaves his gloves in the octagon. I really do.
Okay. Very, very interesting. See, that's why I'm so excited about this fight, is because there is a lot of controversy. Stipe Miocic, okay, let's just talk about him for a little bit. He has 3 losses in his professional career. 3. He lost to Stefan Struve in 2012, okay, Junior Dos Santos, a legend, in 2014, and Daniel Cormier last summer, 2018. Stipe has never been submitted. He has 13 KO wins and 1 submission win. Daniel Cormier was Stipe's first loss in almost 5 years. The way Stipe took the heavyweight belt was emphatic. He took it from Fabricio Verdum in 2016, and he caught him with a hook, and he dropped him like a sack of Croatian potatoes. Okay? Very similar to the way that DC dropped Stipe. Very similar. The knockouts are very, very similar. Since he knocked out Verdum, Stipe defended his title 3 different times against legends, Alistair Overeem, I believe, Junior Dos Santos, and Francis Ngannou. Then he lost to DC by KO.
So that's what's happened.
Right.
What's going to happen?
Well, now Daniel Cormier, why I think he's going to win this fight.
Okay.
He was 15-0 in his first 15 fights. Only loss ever was to John Jones. Here's the list of people that Daniel Cormier has: Frank Mir, Roy Nelson, Dan Henderson, Anthony Rumble Johnson twice, Alexander Gustafsson, Anderson Silva, Volkan Oezdemir, Stipe Miocic, Derek Lewis. John Jones, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, is DC's kryptonite. And whether or not he's going to have a third chance to face that, I don't know. But I think that if Daniel Cormier wins this fight, which I personally think that he will because of how smart he was against Stipe, he knew he wasn't going to beat him standing up. He knew he doesn't have the reach. He knew he doesn't have the same amount of power. But he was smart, and he went to the clinch, and he knocked Stipe from the clinch, knowing that was the only way he was going to beat him. So I think it's going to be close. But I think Daniel Cormier is a seasoned enough, experienced enough, and smart enough fighter to do, again, what he did last summer.
He said on ESPN First Take this morning with Stephen A. Smith and Will Kane that he plans to, if his game plan isn't going the right way, he will take Stipe to the ground and just wrestle him and empty that gas tank. That is the only way he wins this fight. And if Stipe catches him early, I do not see the size differential. I hate saying this because I think Daniel Cormier is one of the greatest fighters of all time. However, I do think Stipe is a little too big for him. I think Cormier is a little older. I think he's got those gray hairs in his beard. I think it is being overlooked, the age. I think that all of these different things might be a little bit too much for Daniel Cormier, and that's why I come to this conclusion. However, I wanted to really quickly, before we finish out this round, get a couple of thoughts really quick. If Daniel Cormier wins, what's next?
2 words. They both start with J. And these 2 words have beaten Daniel Cormier and given him his only losses in his life.
What weight class?
See, that's the thing. That was so interesting this morning because I got on, I think it was Ariel Helwani's show that I didn't get on it, but I watched it. And he had quotes from both John Jones and Daniel Cormier. He had a formal interview with Daniel Cormier over FaceTime or whatever, and Daniel Cormier was saying the ball is in my court. I can fight Jones or not fight Jones if I want to or if I don't want to. John Jones quickly replied, I believe on social media, saying, "Don't worry, guys. There's not going to be a third fight. Daniel Cormier is scared of me."
He is convinced it will not happen.
Right.
However, I agree. I don't think it happens. I don't think John Jones wants it. I don't think Daniel Cormier wants it. I don't think Daniel Cormier, in all honesty, I know he says he wants to get down to 205. I don't know if that's even a possibility for him. He's walking around at 240 right now. And at the beginning of his training camp, he was walking around above the heavyweight limit of 265. He is so big. I don't think he gets back down. The only way I see it happening, and I would actually like to see it this way, John Jones goes up to heavyweight, gets that double champ status, and now there's not even a question, because he's been clean, there's not even a question of, is John Jones better than Daniel Cormier? He's beaten him at both the weight classes that they can fight at. However, I think the more interesting thing is if Stipe wins this fight. If Stipe wins this fight, he's pretty much taken out everybody. He's beaten Francis Ngannou. He's beaten Daniel Cormier. Who's left for him to fight? I think the person that is John Jones comes up to fight at 265. Well, not at 265, but at heavyweight and faces off against Stipe Miocic. I think that would be one of the best fights of, one of the best heavyweight bouts of all time. And it would really go to see how great John Jones is, just how great he actually is. So those are my thoughts on what happens after the fight between Daniel Cormier and Stipe Miocic.
Maybe it's the hopeless romantic in me that wants, the last fight that I put my whole heart and soul into. Hopefully not the last, but Daniel Cormier and John Jones 3. I think it's just a trilogy ending. I really, really want it to happen as a fight fan because I think at that point it's the battle of the two greatest of all time. And I'm going to talk a little bit about GOATs and legends and champions and the difference between the three, but this weekend is so huge for Daniel Cormier because he has flirted with the conversation of retirement before, talked a little bit about it today, but I think it will be huge for Stipe Miocic to win this fight, I agree, but if Daniel Cormier wins this fight, he has probably one of the biggest decisions to make in his life as far as his legacy goes. He could hang up the shoes after beating Stipe, which is great, but at the same time, he will always have John Jones's voice in the back of his head. He could hang up the shoes after losing to Stipe, but he also said yesterday in an interview with Ariel Helwani that he does not want his family to see him as the guy at the end of a fight who does not have his hand raised.
Absolutely. 82% of champs coming into a title rematch end up champ leaving that second match.